For more on how the president is reacting to the shooting, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, good morning to you. So we know the president was made aware of the shooting yesterday and later spoke out about it from the White House. What was his message to Americans? And do we know yet if he is planning any sort of visit to Illinois?
Yeah, Joe, this epidemic of gun violence really breaking through on what was a very celebratory atmosphere at the White House yesterday. The president hosting military families, as well as for the first time since taking off his White House staff and their families as well. The president gave remarks, formal remarks, in which he talked constantly about this idea of the United States engaged again in that battle for the soul of America. Talked about how despite all the progress we've made at a country, there's also forces pulling us backwards. And this came up in the context of gun violence as well. Let's listen to part of what the president had to say.
Before I left for Europe, I signed a law, the first real gun safety law in 30 years. Things will get better still, but not without more hard work together. You all heard what happened. You all heard what happened today. But each day we're reminded there's nothing guaranteed about our democracy. Nothing guaranteed about our way of life. We have to fight for it, defend it, and earn it by voting.
You hear there the president talking about earning it by voting. That has been a constant message from the president, whether it's about voting rights, about abortion rights, or in this case about gun safety, an issue that the administration thought they made significant progress in. It was also worth noting that the president there only indirectly referring to the tragedy yesterday. Later, in a separate set of remarks, he did ask for a moment of silence in honor of the victims, also talked about all the efforts the administration was making in coordination with local officials as well.
Yeah, so Mike, I mean, we know the president has signed that historic gun reform legislation, but he has also said more needs to be done. So I guess the question is, what is next? Do we know? Are there any actions the White House can take, or is there going to be a push for even more gun legislation?
This is really the big question, Joe, right? Whether that piece of legislation that the president signed, the first major piece of gun safety legislation in decades, was the sum total of what Washington is capable of doing, or whether it represented the start of some forward progress. Certainly, the White House keeps saying that they're balancing the need to continue pushing forward for additional legislation while also considering every possible executive action. Joe, you also asked about whether the president might be making plans to travel to the region. It is worth noting, based on what we know about his schedule this week, today he's honoring some Vietnam veterans with the Medal of Honor. Later this week, he's actually giving for the first time the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor that the president chooses. One of those recipients is going to be Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, former Congresswoman from Arizona, who, of course, suffered herself from an incident, a mass shooting, in which she has since dedicated her life towards pushing forward for the need for gun safety legislation. Certainly a powerful moment, even as the White House considers other potential plans as they wait for more information about what happened in Illinois and whether the president should be meeting with victims as well.
All right, Mike Memoli. Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.